How's it going, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Across the Bifrost. This is the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every week we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. I am your host, Ryan Doze, and on today's episode, we get to have another creator conversation with an amazing artist who has worked on a recent limited series, the Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor limited series, written by TORUNN GRØNBEKK. We are so proud, so happy to welcome MICHAEL Dowling to the show. MICHAEL, welcome to Across the Bifrost.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
We are, we've been talking back and forth for a little bit, and we started, was it a few months back when the first issue of Jane Foster's limited series came out? I think it was maybe back in the summer, right around when the movie came out. We had Thorin on the show to preview this, and we're having you on to review it. So we're bookending it with
now we're wrapping it up. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'm just curious, did you by chance see the movie?
Oh yeah. No, I was there first day. And I loved it. It was great. I thought I really dug it.
I don't know, I'll probably never know this feeling, but what was it like drawing a comic about a character that was so in the zeitgeist of comic conversations for that stint of time? Was that kind of weird, or were you yeah, that's my book on the stands that you guys are all excited about?
Yeah, I mean, it was I mean, in some ways it's you don't put the two things together because you're not personally involved with the film,
right? Well, of course, yes.
And I was coming off of drawing Spider-Man, so which had kind of blown my mind somewhat, and then to kind of get the opportunity, to draw Thor as well was another kind of atomic kind of mind bomb, and so people would ask me, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I went, "Oh, I'm drawing Thor," and they'd be like, "What?" and then they were and then some people would kind of drag their children over and point at me as a sort of, he's drawing him, he's drawing the Thor. I was like, "Oh yeah, but I'm not. I haven't directed the film."
It's I'm not Chris Hemsworth.
I'm not Chris Hemsworth or Taika Waititi, but I am having a blast. So the two things are different, but it was, I definitely got some bragging rights on the school run for sure.
I have. So, do you have kids?
I've got a couple of kids. Yeah.
So you must have been the coolest dad for a week, but then they probably found something cooler after that.
Well, I mean, they've moved on from that a long time ago. I think if I tell my young drawer, and if I tell him, "Oh, I'm drawing Thor," and he was like, "Oh yeah, I was drawing Thor earlier today," and he.
It's totally the same thing. Totally the same
thing. Yeah. So I need to get him up to the level where he can start taking over on the backgrounds and things like that. And
you can have an in-house studio. You just you do the foreground stuff and you just hand over a sheet to him. Oh, that'd be perfect.
And I'll tell him that the standard rate is $1 an hour. It's.
And then he'll realize years later, "Hey, I think Dad ripped me off."
Yeah, but it's fine because he can go to therapy and sort of.
I'm assuming he's not paying his own rent yet, or stuff like that.
Exactly, Jews are a Jew. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I it's really hard because I've been reading these comics over the last few months, and Torun came on the show, and she was an absolute delight. And I still think she holds our F-bombs record, nice. which is a record that a few have attempted, but I think she's steadily at number one. But when she came on, we were talking about this book kind of hypothetically, what could be in this book. And she even told us, she's like, you're going to be really happy with this book. You're also I'm going to break your heart a little bit with this book. And I think there's a lot that I wanted to, bring out in our discussion a little bit later about this book, because I really did enjoy it. But I wanted listeners to get to know you a little bit, and then we can maybe jump into some comics in a moment. A question that we start off our conversations with, I mean, you can be as serious with this or as like, I mean, you can choose a realm like of the world tree, but where in the 9 realms does Michael Dowling call home?
That's we have to remember the names of the 9 realms now.
Right.
This is what is it? Vanaheim, which is the kind of the ruins and but also it's kind of a beautiful mountainous region, and
right. It's very idyllic.
Very idyllic, yeah. And I think when I was drawing Thor, the Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor, when I was specifically drawing moments in Vanaheim, I was thinking, I was looking at a lot of reference photos of the big kind of like Yellowstone, places like that,
right?
The big national parks.
Yeah,
and it really got me feeling I would like to go there. So I mean, seeing as that feels like that's probably be as close as I'll get to Vanaheim.
It's funny. You're the first person to say Vanaheim yet, because I think maybe most people forget about Vanaheim, because it's not usually like the forefront of most Thor stories. It's where like all the old gods lived, and I mean, we've had Muspelheim has been mentioned, by some of our edgier guests, and we had a few weeks ago we had Joe Sabino on the show, and he was like, Alfheim, I have no interest in fighting, and then we finally marked Vanaheim off. I feel like I should start taking like a record of these to see if we can finally get to all of them.
Tally them up.
But I mean, Vanaheim's a great answer. I was curious, Michael, what were some of your, because you're a comics artist, but what are some of your favorite, first memories of comics and superheroes?
A lot of my early comics memories come from just things that were just lying around the house, because I've got an older brother who's 3 years older than me, who was reading Spider-Man and 2000 AD and things like that, and so this was back when you could easily get Marvel and DC comics just from your local shops in Britain. It doesn't work like that anymore, sadly, but it's just the distribution model changed in the 90s. But you could just go to any shop and there would be just copies of Amazing Spider-Man and Hulk and things like that. And so they would. So I just grew up with them around. If you reach down the side of the sofa, like under the cushions, you pull out a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, and then just crumple it back in there when you were finished.
Man,
it's terrible. So I think that's probably my kind of earliest memory, was a kind of the magazine rack by the side of the sofa. It was just these wonderful Todd McFarlane Spider-Mans you just kind of pull out and marvel at how many webs he'd drawn on a page.
Like, what's that one famous Spider-Man cover where it's pretty much just all webs, and then like Spider-Man's like in there, like, but it's completely, it's an iconic cover.
Spider-Man's getting himself cozy, right?
Right.
It's making a nest
like a spider would. Well, and you've already mentioned Spider-Man a few times, and I'm wondering, was he like a childhood favorite, or did you have other childhood favorites?
Absolutely. Spider-Man was a big one for me, and then and I think at one point I think whilst Todd McFarlane was drawing the Amazing Spider-Man, now I'm trying to remember the writer's name who did Craven's Last Hunt, J.M. DeMatteis.
DeMatteis.
DeMatteis, there you go. So he was doing a run on Spectacular Spider-Man, which was writing it, and it was a really good run. So I think that kind of, and then reading things like Craven's Last Hunt. So I was reading those things when I was a kid, and it was only in my teenage years that I discovered, Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns and things like that. But as a sort of kid to be reading that stuff, it seemed kind of, I loved it. I loved it at the time. I love it now. It's great stuff.
Last Hunt is one of those like Craven's my favorite Spider-Man villain, and like you can't be a Spidey fan if you don't know about Craven's Last Hunt. I mean, it's an iconic story.
It's seminal stuff. Yeah, and the fact that it ran across all the Spider-Man titles at the same time, because they knew there had to be continuity, because Spider-Man's buried alive in this story, and it would be weird if he's fighting the Hobgoblin in
right. He's like he's buried alive in one book, but he's doing fine in the other ones.
Him and MJ are getting ice creams in Spectacular.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did you have you mentioned McFarlane? I mean, he already a few times, like he's one of those artists, like it's just his name kind of brings up a vibe and maybe some memories. Did you have like some early creative memories trying to like emulate him? Was that like where your artistry began?
I mean, somewhat. I mean, it seemed kind of insurmountable when I was a kid. You just I also really like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles around the similar time as well. The Eastman, nice. The Mirage, Eastman and Laird stuff, which I think I became aware of because the 4-player coin arcade machine.
Oh, it's such a good cabinet game.
Yeah, and so because good. Yeah, and so that appeared, and then and we had no idea what it was. It was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What's this? Because the cartoon hadn't come over yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So all we had, our only knowledge of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
was the arcade cabinet.
It's this amazing 4-player arcade machine.
That's awesome.
Which we would play after going to the skate park. So the next time I went to the comic book shop to pick up Spider-Man in 2000 AD or whatever, I was like, well, look, these are these Ninja Turtle things. But I didn't pick up the Archie comics. I picked up the Mirage stuff, and I started buying the back issues. And in a way, the black and white comics and it's essentially a less refined kind of approach to art, to comic art. Not better or worse, but just kind of that felt more attainable to me.
Okay.
So in a way, that kind of gave me a way in looking at black and white comics, and then I started reading like Cerebus the Aardvark and Flaming Carrot and stuff. I kind of got interested in the black and white comics. It's it's kind of a wild introduction to independent comics. There's a lot of talking animals back then.
Right. If you'd have told me at the beginning of the day, like, hey, Ryan, there will be a Flaming Carrot reference in your day somewhere, I'd be like, okay, I'm aware. Like, that is such a wild book. I feel like that's a book, like it almost has like a cult following unto its own, because it's so out there. It's so weird.
Yeah, and it's so great.
I mean, it stands really by itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff. I think like Usagi Yojimbo, I think also is a book that I read then that I knew that it was a well-respected book, but I think over the years it's kind of gathered the appreciation that it deserves. It's such a great comic, and I still love reading Usagi Yojimbo. The talking animal books, still good.
Right. Anything with a talking animal, Michael is down for it.
I'm all in, as long as it's black and white. Yeah.
Right. Did you when was that point where you took like you're like, okay, I can draw these certain things, but when was that like turn where you're like, oh, I want to be a comic book artist, or I want to like focus on this kind of path for my life?
It actually came much later in life. I think when I was getting ready to leave school, over here in Britain we have like careers, they're called careers advisors.
Okay.
And I don't know how you get that job. I don't know what qualifications you need to get that job, but I imagine it's quite a daunting kind of proposition, because you've got all these kind of 16-year-olds kind of slouching into an office to tell you, well, in my case, I would like to be either a professional skateboarder, a stuntman, or a comic book artist. It's like It's okay. All right. Okay, kid.
You're like, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. And of course, this was back in the day when, you know, the idea was to knock this kind of thing out of kids. You know, okay.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's fine. All these ambitions, but really, you should go to college and be a mechanic or something. You should
be serious. You know.
Yeah, you should go and get a job. Go and study. Be a mechanic or something. You know, it's you know, so it felt quite at that kind of age, it felt kind of unattainable.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure, and I always struggled with the patience to sit down. I would draw a page of comics of my own ideas, and then I would kind of burn out and then kind of move on. So actually, I went to art school and did painting.
Awesome.
rather than illustration and comics. And so I went through the whole art school process doing that, and then I did a postgraduate. And all the time, and then I was teaching for a bit, and all the time I was painting. It wasn't until a friend of mine who was making a film, he was kind of looking around for a storyboard artist.
Okay.
And I said, well, I can draw things, you know.
Right. I'm familiar with drawing.
I draw good. I mean, I drew terribly, but he didn't know. But I had such a blast doing the storyboards. This film was a short science fiction film, and around at the same time I started reading Hellboy.
Oh gosh.
And then I started with it. Sort of two things happened at the same time. I was like, well, actually, there is still quite a lot of new things to do with comics. You know, there's still a lot to be done with the language of comics. You know,
right.
And also, I'm discovering that I'm kind of into it. You know, after doing these storyboards, it might be maybe this was worth a go. So I suggested to my friend, well, why don't we do? Who was making the film? I said, well, why don't I do a little short comic as a sort of promotion thing, and then when you're going to festivals and whatnot, you can give people the
cool.
You know, the DVD of your film, and we'll put a little A5 comic. We'll tuck a little comic book inside the DVD, and then they can just flick through it and get the vibe, and that might, you know, get them to watch the film. So and basically that. So I did a 12-page comic to go with the film, and that was, you know, but I was like 30 at that point. So
okay.
So I'd you know, there'd been a long stretch until I kind of resolved that maybe this was a thing that I could do. But I think a lot of it's to do with patience, right? You know, or, you know, just having the patience to sit down and draw things, you know, like page after page. It's comics is a discipline, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there may be some fans out there, and I have a follow-up question, because when you said patience, it made me think of something that I really did want to ask you. There's probably fans out there that are like, they probably look at, you know, an issue of, you know, of Black Cat you've worked on, or Spider-Man, or Jane Foster, and like, oh, I could do that if I tried like for a little while, I could do that. But what you're saying is like, it is so daunting. Like, sometimes you don't even realize how daunting it is. And like, do you have any advice for like maybe fans that would say like, oh no, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I'm better than the artist, but like, I want to someday try. I want to someday like put in the work. Like you said, it's a discipline. It's a skill you keep refining. Do you have any advice for artists out there that would look at this and be like, well, I feel it's daunting looking at a Michael Dowling comic and being like, I could never do that. Just like how you said you had looked at McFarlane or Mignola earlier on.
Yeah. And it's that thing you look at it, you go, well, I don't know how to get there from where I am with my kind of short-armed muscle men that I'm drawing, you know.
My short-armed muscle men.
How do I move on?
Great.
It's and of course the thing to do is just to do it, just to draw. But then the problem is, okay, so it's very time consuming, and you know, and if you're not being initially, you're obviously probably not being paid for it. You know, you need to generate pages for your portfolio in order to show an editor and hopefully get some work.
Right.
So you need to you need to organize a situation where you kind of have to, you need to make an agreement with a writer or with a kind of small press anthology, any way that you can give yourself a deadline to hit,
right?
Because otherwise it's really hard. I'm sure it's really hard to achieve something unless you've got like a solid goals, right?
Yeah.
And with comics, a lot of those goals are to do with hitting deadlines.
Is deadlines.
Yeah. So it's that would be my advice. Find a way that forces you to structure your time into achieving pages.
Well, and I hope I hope someone maybe listens to this, they listen to like our creator conversations that we do, and they say like, oh, okay, well, like they're a normal person, they're a regular person, like I if I put in the work, and I keep refining it, maybe I can someday. Because I think the world needs more artists. It needs more art and storytellers. And
well, I'm not sure I need any competition, but in principle,
we need storytellers that don't take work away from Michael. That's what we need. Speaking of work, how did your opportunity at Marvel happen when you started with like Black Cat, and you started with, like you said, Spider-Man, which I want to dig in more about that, because you got to work on a character that you loved as a kid. How did the opportunity at Marvel come up?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I basically I'm ticking things off as I go in terms of like Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. These are the things that I need to draw in order to fulfill certain ambitions. But I think, I've been working for 2000 AD for a few years, and then also for Vertigo, doing some creator-owned things, and I'd sort of stayed in contact with Marvel throughout that, and so it was Zabluski was the talent scout.
Okay.
Before he had the big job, and so I would, every now and again, I would send him new pages and say, this is what I'm working on at the moment. If there's anything you need, let me know. And he would always email back and say, yeah, we'll keep you in mind for something. And you never know, right? You never know if that means get out of here, kid, good, or if something might come up. And you have to, I think, work on the assumption that, hope that something might come up. And then one day an email just came through saying, oh, there's a thing. Can you draw a thing? I believe it was a Star Wars.
Is it the TIE Fighter series?
Yes. Yeah. And it was very, turned out to be quite difficult timing. But I remember drawing that. It was just a short story, but I remember drawing it. I wasn't in my studio. It was kind of chaotic, and I had like the flu, and I remember thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, I've done everything in my power to kind of get here and to make a good job of it, but I'm going to break it, and that will be it. And it was, it was one of those moments where you just think, oh, this is, life kind of crashing in on your ambitions. But thankfully they didn't hold it against me. And then I think after that, I think Nick Lowe got in touch about doing something, who's the Spider-Man editor, got in touch with doing some doing a backup story for Black Cat, but it was, it's one of those things where it takes a while. I think it was probably a few years of sort of conversation, just kind of friendly conversation with C.B. Zabluski and other people at Marvel, who were all sort of contactable and approachable. You know, I'm worried that I'm deluging their inboxes.
No. It's like they're like that persistence, that patience that you referenced earlier, like continuing to kind of grind until the opportunity comes. And you did, like, I will say this, like I am not a normal like Black Cat or Spider-Man reader these days. But when I went back and looked in preparation for our discussion, when I looked at those Black Cat issues, I was like, oh my gosh, that Gilded Saint you drew in those, that thing was incredible. Like,
so such fun to draw.
I mean, and I didn't expect that in a Black Cat comic. Like, I was like, I expected like, oh, she steals some stuff, she beats up some thugs. Nope, giant skeleton, like you know, big god in this, you know, sea of gold. I was like, fantastic. This, you know, I mean, never try to predict where a comic is going.
no, it definitely not. And I mean, with Black Cat, that all comes down to Jed MacKay, the writer on that, who's just phenomenal. I think. I mean, I think everything he does is just brilliant. I mean, you know, I say these nice things because I suspect one day Jed will be all our bosses. he's that good.
You never know.
You never know. I think I thoroughly recommend it. Anything he writes. The guy's he's a star. I think it's brilliant writing. I mean, with Black Cat, the part of the fun of it was light as air, and you know, it's kind of really, it's a really fun book.
Yeah.
But when it comes to laying out the big emotional beats, you know, he really kind of Jed knows how to really hit you with a hammer, you know, just to knock you down with the emotional kind of storytelling. I mean, he's amazing. It's amazing.
I one of the, I mean, when you say that, it makes me think of at one of the end of, I think it's issue 7 that you did on Black Cat, your last issue on Black Cat and the Black Fox have this moment where like Gilded Saint like takes the Black Fox away, and Felicity is she's crying, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is you got me, Jed. You got me.
Because it's one of those moments where and it's all to do with character. He's established the Black Cat's character and the Black Fox's character such that they will come into even though they're friends, they have almost a parental relationship. They will come into conflict in this moment, and they both accept that that this terrible thing that they will do to each other. And it's hard, you know, it's kind of, and that's real drama, you know, where it's inevitable, where it's kind of, you've established the characters and who they are. And so, you know, it's the same if you watch The Sopranos or, you know, any well-written TV, the character drives the action. You know, and that's what Jed does so well, I think.
And you went from working with Jed MacKay on Black Cat to working with Zeb Wells, you know, with Spider-Man. So like, that leap to Spider-Man, you know, you're going from like street level hero to street level hero, but you're moving from, you know, Black Cat's a great character, but I mean, no offense, she's no Spider-Man. But then you jump into the seat with Spider-Man. What was like getting to do a Spider-Man book? Like we've talked in the past with several creators. It's like, you know, what was that like moment where you're like, hey, like I feel like I've actually done something here? And it's like, oh well, it's the first time I wrote or drew Spider-Man. Because he's the goose that laid the golden egg. So what was that like?
I think I've kind of just normalized it in my head now, but you know, when it first came about, it was seismic. Like,
right?
Okay, right, really? Yes, it's one of those things where you just don't necessarily think that it's going to happen. You know, you just think, well, you know, I guess, you know, that would be nice, but I can't ever think that it's going to be a thing. You know, it would be amazing, but what are the chances, right? And so when it came up, it's just yeah, it's one of those, I don't know, I mean, you know, you just have to kind of go, okay, because you can't get kind of too overwhelmed by it, because then you have to go and do it.
your inner child can only do cartwheels for so long before you have to go like actually draw some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know, one of my first ambitions in comics was to draw Judge Dredd. In fact, that was the kind of, probably at the time, it was my only ambition. It was like, well, if they let me draw Judge Dredd, I would be happy. You know, that would be amazing. But I think when I showed my portfolio to the editor of 2000 AD, where Judge Dredd resides, I mean, he said, "Oh, the work is very stylized, and I mean, it wouldn't be suitable for, say, Judge Dredd."
You're like, damn it.
And you know, it's one of those things where you stay composed, and you go, "Oh, thanks for your time, and it's nice to meet you," and then you walk away and just kind of curl into a fetus.
And then you go cry in your car in the parking lot.
Not Judge Dredd.
But then you like you get the Spider-Man book. Like that's I mean, you get to draw Peter Parker, you get to draw Spider-Man, you get to draw like were you the first one that drew the Goblin Queen, or was that before you?
I'm a bit uncertain. I believe that Patrick Gleason actually, I think his issue might have come out first. I mean, he certainly designed the Queen Goblin. So I think I'm just curious because we had several different, because it was a big team effort. So we had Sarah Pichelli and Patrick and a few other people and a few different writers as well. So it became quite kind of who's drawing what, and there's one of those things where when you're working with a group of people, it's like, what has anyone drawn the lab yet? And, and then the editor will come back and say, no one's drawn the lab yet. You go first. And it's like, okay, I'm going to make it look like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and then drive everyone crazy. So there is that thing, and it's like, okay, but Patrick's designed. You know, I think Marvel are quite thoughtful about this. Or, you know, the editors understand these problems. So Patrick was designing the characters as they were being introduced. But I think it's possible that the Queen Goblin first kind of flew into the skies in one of my comics. It's possible.
I mean, the reason why I just asked is, like, she's such a striking character. And she's you know, I again, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man reader, but she's familiar enough that you're like, oh, that's a Goblin character, but then she's terrifying, and it's like, whoa, okay, she's not here to mess around.
No, she doesn't have the kind of rationale of Norman or Harry Osborn lurking,
which is insane to say.
Yeah, that's it. Like, how much weight do you want to give that? But yeah, she doesn't even have that. It's she's a terrifyingly malevolent character.
If Norman Osborn looks level-headed next to you, you're probably unhinged. So you get done with those few issues of Spider-Man, and then the next like big Marvel thing was what we're here to talk about today. It's Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor. And before we jump into like the actual like story and like kind of looking at a few different things from the issues, that opportunity, because you've been working on street level heroes, you know, Black Cat and Spider-Man. I mean, Thor is a completely different style of like of storytelling. I remember a conversation we had a while back with artist Ron Friends from the 80s and 90s, and he was talking about how when he and Tom DeFalco, like, they wanted to do Spider-Man, but then they were given this long run on Thor, and Ron was like, it is an entirely different type of setting and background and all that. So when you get this opportunity to how did the opportunity to do this Thor limited series come about? And then, like, did you have to like shift your frame of mind to like draw completely different stories, or were you like, no, I've done this before, I can roll with it?
I mean this is the thing, right? Because when I think of Spider-Man, my mind kind of goes to a few different things. Obviously, Steve Ditko and John Romita, and then Tom McFarlane latterly, and even Eric Larson, and as a certain kind of like dynamic kind of sort of 90s kind of
right.
But where with Thor, I was thinking, well, Simonson, and his Beta Ray Bill comics and things like that, and it's quite a, I think it all comes back to Kirby in a lot of ways.
Many things do.
Yeah, many things do, but I think that kind of overall dynamism that Walt Simonson brought to Thor, that, I mean, I was like, oh, okay, I don't, because that's quite far from what I do. I mean, you talk about Spider-Man, Black Cat as being street level. I think, I'm often surprised that I'm offered these jobs because in some ways I feel like my art is more street level than these characters that kind of get up in the skyscrapers,
Right.
But you kind of but I think it's you kind of think, well, that's, perhaps I can give a slightly different perspective to this. Perhaps I can give a kind of lend some naturalism to the art that in a good way, rather than in a kind of rather than just making things look kind of more pedestrian, like more normal in a sort of derogatory sense.
I think, again, correct me, it's I don't have any ambition to critique your work in any single way, but I've noticed, like, I've read quite a few Thor comics in this journey, and sometimes Thor is this character, he gets irrationally bulked up, like he gets like muscles on muscles on muscles on muscles, and then, like, I open up your book with Thor and I'm like, oh, that actually looks like a real guy. Like, that actually looks like, he's still dynamic, he's still super, but like his traps don't have traps. His biceps don't have biceps. Like, and it's a little more slimmed down, but like it's realistic. And I was like, oh, this is actually refreshing, because I've read so many issues of Thor where it's like, that there's no way that guy exists. Like, there's no way that character could even, like, it's like watching it's like Godzilla, it's like, nope, it's illogical. It wouldn't work. Did with that, you saying like more of a street level style and kind of, coming from those characters that you had just done for Marvel, did Will Moss like offer this up to you? Was that a conversation you guys had, or like, it was basically it was kind of an email out of the blue from Will, and then I'm a huge kind of a huge fan of a lot of the books that Will's edited in the past, so there's to get the email, I was, oh, okay. I mean, basically whatever Will's up to, I'm in. So he's got a pretty good track record.
He does. He's great, and but then I was super curious about how it would be to work with Will, and it was just a breeze the whole way through. But yeah, that was essentially, I mean, my feeling was that he's edited a lot of great books, and if he's putting this together and would like me to be part of it, who am I to say no? and he knows what I'm doing. I mean, this is what I mean, going back to this kind of the idea of kind of street level. Like, if he feels that it can bring something to the book, then I will try and bring it. So it's I was all in straight away, really.
Well, speaking of being all in and being all for it, on the other side of this very short break, we're actually going to get into the issues, and we're going to ask Michael some of his favorite parts of drawing this. What was it like to play in the toy box that is the 9 Realms? So we'll be right back after a brief break. Okay, everyone, now is the time of the episode where I remind you that we have a Patreon. It is called the Thor Core, and at the link below in this episode description, you can go and support us there. For a few bucks a month, you'll get early episodes, bonus episodes, and if you're a Thor Core member, you're going to help determine the road for our 2023. We are going to be spotlighting another creator like we've spotlighted Jason Aaron this year. We're either going to do Jack Kirby's Thor or Walt Simonson's Thor. So if you have a strong opinion about either and you join the Thor Core, your voice is going to be heard in that decision making. So a few of the perks of joining the Thor Core today, just wanted to let you know, remind you that either way, we appreciate you listening, we appreciate your support, and we hope you enjoy the rest of this conversation with Michael Dowling. Okay, everybody, we are back from our brief break, back with Michael Dowling talking about Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor, a recent limited series that did kind of coincide with the highlighting Thor. Love and Thunder came out, and the Banner of War crossover was happening. There was a lot of Thor books happening at the same time. And we, in recent months, we've talked with Banner of War artist Martin Coccolo several times about his work on Thor. And now we're going to get to break down this limited series with Michael. It's going to be awesome. And I just wanted to give fans that maybe haven't read the limited series a little bit of a kind of here's what the story is about before we dice it up a little bit. Sure. This is a really simple story. In my opinion, it's a really simple story. It's a story of Jane being put in this situation where Thor is nowhere to be seen and war is again coming to Asgard. Asgard's constantly in this state of fighting off, armies and dark elves and trolls and all that kind of stuff. So it's almost kind of run of the mill. It's like routine for Asgard to be under attack. So Jane knows that Thor is nowhere to be seen. So she goes to find Thor, and Runa, who you may recognize as like the Tessa Thompson version of Valkyrie. She goes immediately to Asgard, and she, alongside Lady Sif, Beta Ray Bill, the gods of Asgard, they're trying to thwart this attack from all these different classic Thor villains that I definitely want to ask Michael about. But the war begins, and Jane is put through the paces, trying to find Thor, to get Thor back to Asgard so that they can squash this latest, an attempt at an invasion. That's kind of the wide sweeping, plot lines.
Summed it up perfectly.
A lot of things happen along the way. Don't get me wrong. A lot of different things happen. But we talked about kind of what you brought to this limited series, but what was it like working with TORUNN, getting these scripts and working alongside her to bring this story to fruition?
Well, I mean, it was as soon as I got the first script, I knew that this would be this is going to work. This is going to be an easy. This is going to be a great collaboration, because it's kind of all. It's all in the script. What you need to know about where what's happening in Asgard and Jane's kind of motivations, and then it just becomes, as you get into the story, that those kind of themes about how important Thor is to Asgard, and kind of Jane's understanding of that, it just becomes deeper as the story goes along. And so straight away, I mean, I knew that my job was going to be pretty simple, just to draw the script, and I didn't have to second guess it or overthink it or anything. It was just okay. It's all here. I draw the pictures, which for an artist is great.
Right. If you have to think further than that, maybe you're outside the depth.
This is it. Yeah.
But so when we were corresponding back and forth, you had said something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, but you're like, I am not an expert at Thor. Ooh. And when you said like everything was in the script, well, we know, like, you know, you're busy making comics, you maybe don't have time to go back and do all this research and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, find reference points. When you get those scripts and you're like, oh, hey, I don't have to like be a PhD in this character, that's awesome. When you get that, I mean, that must have like taken a lot of weight off your shoulder as the artist, because then you just, like you said, you just get to draw the pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's because I think Will mentioned that this is it's obviously part of continuity with the previous Jane Foster books, and I'd read a bunch of Jason Aaron's run on.
We're big fans of that here.
Yeah,
big fans.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm a huge Jason Aaron fan, full stop, since The Other Side and Scalped, still one of my favorite comics ever.
The Goddamned.
And The Goddamned, yeah. It's just wonderful stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And so I was kind of partially up to speed. But then I was like, oh no, I've got these gaps in my knowledge on it. But as soon as I read the script, I was like, oh, okay, I think I know where everyone is, and like emotionally, and what's needed for the story. And
right,
yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, if you're going to take on a character, you know, you just don't have time to read 700 issues of continuity. Right. and you know, it's like, ultimately, I know Jane Foster and Thor through this book. This is the Jane Foster and Thor that I know.
Yes.
You know, and people ask me about Thor, and I'm like, no, this is all I know. Sorry. You know?
I know what I drew. Like,
yeah.
So, but you know, being a longtime comic book fan and growing up, at least adjacently aware of these characters, when you get handed this script that is full of most of the like roster of Thor characters, you look at this toy box of all these different Thor characters you get to draw. Was there any character you were like, ooh, I'm really looking forward to bringing them to life, or I've always wanted to draw them? Was there any character in here that you were particularly excited about?
I was super curious to draw Beta Ray Bill. Because I was like, well, how does that work? You know, because every time I look at a drawing of him,
how does that work?
How does that work?
Maybe Walt Simonson can answer that someday for me.
Yeah, you should ask him. You know, it's you know, and as soon as I started drawing the character, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I know. You know, I would like to ask Walt Simonson how to do that. But the character I ended up having the most fun drawing was Sim, who.
Oh yeah,
and who's
the Demon of Limbo.
The Demon of Limbo, yeah, who's just a kind of great big lump of a character with a horn in the middle of his head, you know, and it looks like he's. I mean, this is the thing also with drawing characters from who are possibly designed in the 70s or 80s, and obviously Dowter, I'm going to say his name, Douterman.
Daniel, Dauterman.
Dauterman, yeah. So obviously he redesigned the Dark Elves and the Frost Giants.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
and there's a wonderful designs that you then get to work with, but a lot of characters haven't had that editorial leeway to be redesigned. So you know, it's not really your place as an artist coming into the Marvel universe to kind of raise your hand and say, I'd like to redesign all of the characters that I'm drawing, please. You know, it's like, I think Thor should now have a sword. Is that cool? You know,
yeah. This hammer thing is kind of outdated and it's overplayed.
Yeah. Like, come on, guys.
Michael, I don't think we can have you draw Thor then.
Yeah, and it's you can't redesign everything.
Yeah.
So, I would say that so we had to deal with some of the characters the way they are, and so with a character like Sim, he's wearing what looks to be a black waistcoat and some black cycling shorts,
right,
and nothing else.
It's so simple. Like, how could Michael, like, how could you ever screw Sim up? Like, he's too basic to screw up.
You kind of think, man, if someone walked into my local pub wearing that, it's kind of, I mean, best of luck.
Oh, so some choices were made. Okay.
Choices were made, or not made, possibly, just things were thrown on. They've been on the sort of the pandemic indoor exercise bike.
Right.
They signed up for that, but then they need to put something on to go to the pub, so they put on a waistcoat. And that's it.
You could have bet money. I'd be like, what character are we going to talk about the most? I'm like, Sim. I wouldn't even guessed. But he's such a fun character to kind of just play with, because he's kind of a goon. Yeah. Like, and when he showed up, I will say this: when he shows up at the end of his issue 2 or 3, I was like, what is he doing here? Like, because I closely associate Sim with like X-Men stuff and like Limbo with just different characters. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna get some characters that aren't exactly part of the Thor rogues gallery, which at the end we get Ares. Ares comes out of nowhere.
Ares, fantastic. Yeah.
Like, and Ares is another character. Like, he's got such a simple design. So like, did you feel like, oh, maybe I can be a little bit more creative here, or were you like, no, like, let's?
No, I mean,
here's what they know.
I mean, with Ares, I mean, I feel like the sort of iconography of Greek armor and is so strong. I think, you should just think about the shape of the shape of the helmet,
right,
and just and the kind of the Roman kind of skirt, kind of I think that is Roman rather than Greek, but it's those elements are just kind of so iconic. I don't want to mess with that. It's like,
and I think you did I don't presume to know everything or even anything about this, but when you like, Ares is another character kind of like Thor, where I feel like usually he gets bulked up to these like just unbelievable like amounts of muscles and stuff, but like you kept him like pretty trim and he was believable, and I was like, oh, I actually believe that Ares like could exist like in a Marvel movie, or in like, heck, like a really great cosplayer could pull off that look of Ares. But I enjoyed that really simple, almost like stripped down view of him.
But I think in the last issue, what's his name? Tyr. How do you pronounce it?
Tyr.
Yep. Tyr is kind of, he's suddenly realized, I think he's realizing that he may have made a bad deal. And he was realizing kind of Ares's resolve to just bring the utter chaos and violence of war to Asgard. And so as Tyr is kind of trying to talk pointlessly, trying to talk Ares back from the joy of war. In the script, it called for Ares to stand, with his arms wide, arms outstretched, to be like, this, this is what I bring.
Right.
This is my church. This is
such a great line.
Yeah, as kind of as Asgard burns behind him. But in the end, and that's how I kind of drew it in the layouts, where he's almost Christ-like with his arms out, and kind of. But in the end, I just had him just turn around, with his arms at his side.
I'm looking at it right now.
Axe ready. He's just turned round. He's just like, yeah, this is my church, man. This is how we're going to do it.
Oh, it's such a good line.
And I like the idea of just that quiet understatement. He's not this huge kind of muscle dude. He doesn't have to have histrionics.
He's not the Hulk. Like
he's not the Hulk.
Yeah. I were there any, like you said, kind of like a lot of these characters are iconic with like their looks. Were there any challenges in this project that you kind of had to like you kind of rack your brain over? That you get that challenge, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to sit with this one for a little while and kind of workshop it. Was there anything like that in these 5 issues?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, beforehand, kind of getting the look of the characters right is always difficult. Yeah, and it is, and it's not my inclination to draw like exaggerated physical forms. My inclination is to kind of normalize people.
Yes,
but hopefully not to the extent that it's kind of it becomes boring or pedestrian.
Definitely not boring. I mean, but not at all.
Yeah, and so it was a case of just trying to. I mean, the biggest challenge was the roster of characters, right? Because there's so many characters. I mean, Thor brought everyone in, so it's a case of trying to get everyone's look right, and then get it consistent.
Yeah, right.
It's so easy to kind of lose your way with how characters look and things like that, and then because you might think, I've got this scene where someone's holding a hammer up and lightning's coming down, and I'm going to put all my effort into that,
right?
But then if you haven't drawn the characters consistently, then the storytelling won't work, and then the impact of that moment of somebody calling down lightning for a big splash, it won't carry.
Yeah.
So you have to attend to. I knew I'd have to attend to a lot of character work, and so I had, literally almost every page I was having to open up a folder and go back to my original drawings and
like a reference, like an internal reference for
go back to the reference and
for this limited series specific style. One thing I loved is and I want to know like some of like what were your favorite story elements that you got to put into this that you're like most proud of. But I noticed like, because this is still in continuity, you have the Nick Klein inspired Thor gear, and I've actually the one with the big rune on it, and like that is like one of my favorite adjustments that, like, you talk about characters, maybe you're not able to be like, hey, I want to change up Thor's whole look. It's like sometimes maybe you don't get that leeway. Like Nick Klein got that leeway at the beginning of this latest volume of Thor, and like that outfit is so crisp and clean and cool. Like I loved it. So I loved like the Valkyrie armor. I've really come to enjoy that, when you did like Undjarn as the all weapon, like these very familiar things that I'm used to with other artists. It was like how do you say, it was like reading like the comfort food version of a comic. I was like, oh, it's familiar, but it's fresh. And I love that. I love that so much. Were there elements of the story or maybe specific panels or creative choices that you were just like, I'm really proud of that with this book?
I mean, I'm sort of flicking. I'm looking through the issues now. And I'm kind of
which right now, okay, listeners, Michael's doing something that I like can only dream of doing someday. You're like, let me look through these 5 issues of my work here and try to find something that's like the most awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the things I really enjoyed drawing was young Thor.
Yeah,
because it was so, and those sequences were young Thor, and he's like hiding in a crevasse, and there's a giant snake and things. Because there's no easy explanation. There isn't. That stuff isn't really set up, and isn't necessarily explained to you what's going on.
Right.
Why Thor looks the way he does. So I knew we'd be throwing the reader for a bit of a loop with that.
You did, yes.
Yeah.
As a reader, you did.
Why does Thor look like this? And And so that was kind of fun to draw, knowing that it would be kind of bewildering.
Right.
You're sort of hoping, well, I hope this will be okay. I hope people aren't too kind of annoyed with this. But that was a just specifically drawing. I forget the giant snake's name. It has a meaningful name in Norse mythology.
Is it Jormungand?
It could be.
I'll just hop up on my Marvel Unlimited, and I'll take a quick look. Let's see. You know what? I don't believe the script actually says his name. Not in issue 1, it doesn't.
I think it appears in issue 2.
Okay. This let's see. Oh, it's Nidhogg.
Right.
A beautiful name.
Yeah.
But I have realized one thing, like if TORUNN GRØNBEKK puts something in a Thor comic and it's Norse mythology related, she knows her stuff.
Yes.
I mean, she's one of those people that, like, I just don't, like, when she writes Thor, I just don't doubt it. I just don't doubt it at all.
No.
Her and Jason Aaron, I don't doubt it for a second.
Yeah, they 100% know what they're doing.
I will say one of my favorite things that I just grew to really love this about your style, Michael, is these big, like, single character pieces. Like in the first issue, I believe it was one of the preview images that yourself and TORUNN shared. It's the picture, the almost I think it's like a 3/4 page panel of when Jane is like about to touch the hammer and she remembers what it was like to be the mighty Thor. And it's that big image of her with the lightning crackling around her. And I was like, I won't lie, that preview image ensured that I was going to buy the first issue. And because I knew, like, because there wasn't any text boxes around it yet. It was just an image. And I was like, oh shit, that is cool. And then, like, in the second issue, there's or maybe it's the third issue. There's the moment with Jane with the Promethean sword, with the fire and the lightning. I was like, get out of town. Like, come on, this is too good. Then when I read issue 5, the last issue, my favorite panel of that whole book was when Thor jumps off of the long ship and he's jumping to Asgard and there's lightning all around him and the cape is like is it Jesus Abertov that did the colors on this? Like, his colors are so vibrant, and I loved that image so much. It was so evocative of, like, the Thor stories that I really enjoy. And it's just a simple, like, there's no dialogue, no nothing. It's just him jumping off of the ship, and I loved that so much.
But I think it goes back to the sort of Kirby and then what latterly, like, Walt Simonson, that they were both people who, they're both artists who would set up those dynamic splashes so well. I mean, there's just I'm thinking of, like, kind of little storytelling details, but you're bang on. It's the thing that we really love as artists is to draw those big stretches. It's like, that's the kind of, that's the payoff for the hard, the hard work leading up to it.
One of my like little internal rubrics with a panel that I look at, I'm like, would that be a kick-ass poster? And, like, all those images I mentioned, I was like, I want them around my studio. I want them around my studios so much. But I really enjoyed those big, like, focus. Like, and there's like some spots with Runa where Runa's like riding a Pegasus, and you just, like, you focus in on her, and, like, there's all this stuff happening in the background, but it's clearly, like, the image is about her and it's focused on her. And I just love those big single character, like, focused pieces, and I really enjoyed that about the book. Was there anything else as we kind of wrap up this part of the discussion? Then we're going to do an awesome thunder round with Michael. Was there anything else about this book or your experience writing Thor, working with TORUNN, that you just want, like, listeners to know about before before we close this part of the conversation?
Well, it's something that I mean, for people who've got to the end of the book, I mean, I think one of the things that really made me value my experience of drawing the book is where TORUNN takes the characters, where the battle is essentially won by the end of book 5, and then it becomes this question of, of when do you stop? When do you stop? When do you stop fighting the battle? When do you start to when you start to rebuild? When do you start to think about what bridges might be kind of constructed between you and your adversaries, your former adversaries at this point. And I think, and kind of Jane, spoilers for those who haven't read the book, but Jane is essentially saying to Thor, like we've won, like we don't need to crush people now. We can finish we can finish this battle on a note of grace, like, if you will, like and it's kind of everything that's in Thor, his pride and his love of kind of fighting and everything like that. And his anger over the attack on Asgard. It kind of brims, it comes up to the surface, and then he sees the rationale of what she's saying, and it kind of boils down and simmers down, and then everyone has a drink, and a good time is had by all. And it's I think to make a book just so much about conflict, but at the end, remembers to deal with what happens, when the conflict's over. How we act in peace as well as adversity, right?
I love that at the end. You mentioned a great moment when when Jane says, like, war has never stopped war from happening, and then they come to the conclusion, like, okay, today we choose mercy. And you see, like, I mean, you drew so beautifully this kind of final face-off between the two of them, where they come to that agreement. And it was a really good ending to a book where I won't lie, I got to the end of like issues 3 and 4, and I was like, how are we going to wrap this up in one issue? How are we, like, because I mean, the story is so wide spanning, and there's so many characters, like you said, and I'm just like, how are we going to come to a satisfying conclusion here? And I feel like the landing was really good. It wasn't just Thor and Jane beating people into submission. There was a because
as fun as that sounds, it's never truly satisfying, is it? Right. I mean, it's fun, but unless it's got some depth to it, it will just kind of feel like empty. It'll
never stop the next conflict. So I love that ending, and thank you very much for drawing everything and just presenting a great story. But we do have 5 Thunder Round questions for Michael Dowling, and these are, I asked Michael if he wanted to know what these were ahead of time, and he said no. So we're gonna fire.
I was feeling brave. Now I have my concerns.
Bravery. I hope bravery is not required for the Thunder Round. It's I think we're gonna have a lot of fun getting to know Michael here with these 5 quick questions. So Michael, first question of the Thunder Round: if you were a superhero, what would your powers be?
All right. Flight, obviously.
There's no way you haven't thought about this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to think about it. That's how much I thought about it. Yeah, flight. But there's tiers of it, right? Like,
right.
Like because when I was like a teenager, I was a skateboarder, but in my mind that was always the same as that was like being Spider-Man, because you go into a city and it's like your playground. So, you go in and you kind of, you ollie down steps and you kind of find the grind spots, and and it's a way you turn these big open spaces into your kind of your place to go and freestyle. Because that's what Spider-Man looked like to me. He's the guy who really had the keys to the city. He could go to all the places that none of us could get to. Yeah, so that was always huge to me. So so you're going to have mid-level powers then. Webs enough strength to web swing around a city. Would be great. If we're going to go top tier powers, then upper tier, then flight. 100%. Yeah,
flight. Okay, I mean, flight's a good one. And I feel like that's kind of when people think of like, hey, if you polled like a bunch of people that like didn't read comics, be like, what powers do superheroes have? Be like, well, they fly, and that would probably be like one of the first ones. Not a like fantastic answer. Second question: what is the most unusual thing you have ever eaten or drank?
Okay. Well, all right. Well, here's a comic related thing.
Okay, fantastic.
I mean, this was less unusual. Probably this is probably like it's possibly just annoying, I think. But I think before I started drawing Spider-Man, I drank some Lagavulin, which is a very good Scotch whiskey.
Yes.
But I believe it's also the favorite whiskey of the guy from Parks and Rec,
Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman's character.
Yeah, it's Ron Swanson.
That's the only reason I know what it is.
Yeah, it's Ron Swanson's whiskey of choice. I tell you, Ron Swanson, a man of wisdom.
Truly.
Yeah, it's very expensive, but it's very good. In terms of eating unusual things, I honestly, I mean, I live by the coast, so we get to eat a lot of weird sea creatures here. There's lobster and oysters, all year round.
I'll take oysters as unusual, because oysters like they look gross. Like they taste delicious. They look gross.
I mean, the idea is they taste like lovely fresh sea air or something. It's like being by the sea, and it's wonderful and fresh. But you have to get past that.
You have to get past the visual to get to the actual good part. Third question: who would play you in a movie about your life?
Oh man, who would play me?
This is where you say like Chris Hemsworth or like Chris Evans.
Yeah. For the listener who has never seen a picture of me, absolutely, Chris Evans. Yeah, that's
Jason Momoa, like Henry
Jason
Cavill.
Momoa. Yeah, probably I've never thought about this. Like, I mean, years ago there was an advert on British TV for Wrigley's chewing gum.
Okay.
And the guy in the advert looked just like me, and so I would get stopped all the time. People say, "Oh, you're that guy from the advert." And I think at some point I start saying, "Yeah, that was me."
So
that guy,
the guy from the Wrigley's chewing gum commercial a few years back. You will be playing Michael Dowling in the voice in the film about his life.
He's basically a slightly more handsome version of me. He can
a TV ready Michael Dowling.
TV ready me, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Question number 4. Tell us like one or two of like your pet peeves.
Pet peeves. I'm not. I spend a lot of time just at the drawing board, and so when people drive by playing loud music, I have an urge to run out into the street and start dancing to kind of just to let them know I can hear their music.
Like the crazy comics guy was dancing again. I don't know why.
Why does he do that?
Your rap music's too loud.
It's too loud. It's too loud. Maybe that, and I mean, I mean, I try, you try not to have too many peeves, right?
Right.
Because they'll bring you down. I moved house not long ago, and actually, I don't. It's very quiet where I am now.
Well, hey,
so I might be peeve free.
You got rid of your significant pet peeve, and now all is well.
Yeah, you just got to liberate yourself.
You got to liberate yourself. The last question. This is a one that I believe we've asked every creator. If you could have dinner with one comics creator, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, crikey. Yeah, that's the one. I mean, probably. I mean, this is difficult because there's people you admire, right?
Right.
I mean, I think, but would they be great dinner conversation?
That's why I added the dinner thing in there. It's like, because you have to talk to this person for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, that's it. And you kind of, because that's the thing, you'd be saying, so Frank, why did you write and draw the Holy Terror? It's sort of it might not be the best dinner conversation, really. It's I'm sure it'd be interesting, but I mean, I love I'd love to talk to someone like Daniel Clowes. I mean, he's from independent comics, really. That would be interesting. But I would like to talk to Frank Miller. I'd love to hear his, about his journey from kind of, Daredevil, Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One. I mean, it's seminal work, stuff that kind of blew my mind all the way through.
Frank Miller is not a bad answer. I mean, we've never had a bad answer, but like Frank Miller feels like one that you got to kind of respect no matter what.
Frank I would love to talk to Kevin Eastman and hear about the process of blowing the millions and millions of dollars that came from the Teenage Mutant
from your silly turtle comic.
So you made all this money and then you kind of blew it all on publishing amazing comics through Tundra. I would love to hear that process as well.
I mean, and hey, who knows? Maybe the dream scenario expands and you talk to Frank Miller and Kevin Eastman at the same time. Holy crap, what would that be like?
I mean, real the pillars of 80s kind of comics.
Right. I mean, Michael, I mean, thank you for doing the Thunder Round. It's I hope listeners are like, hey, I know a weird fact about Michael Dowling that you might not know. Like maybe you can break that out at like a Comic-Con someday. Did you know that he does not like loud music outside of his house? But as we wrap up our whole conversation, Michael, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for taking us back through this Jane Foster limited series. What are you up to next, and how can fans keep tabs on what's going on in your world?
Well, it's the next thing I'm doing is a Hallows Eve miniseries. Now this
awesome.
It has been announced, I think so, but I don't really know much about it. I'm at the moment I'm kind of doing a bunch of covers and things whilst Hallows Eve comes together.
Okay.
But it does tie into Spider-Man, and it's to do with this dark web crossover that's coming up.
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, it looks kind of fun. So I think the X-Men are in on this, and
they're in on a lot of stuff, it seems to be
these days. Yeah,
I hear these X-Men guys are popular.
Yeah, could be a thing. And so I'm really looking forward to getting started on that. I've got a short story in Mary Jane and Black Cat, issue 1, which comes out soon, I think, in a month or two. That's another Jed McKay book, so 100% everyone should go and check that out, because it will be fantastic, I'm sure. And you can find me on my poorly curated Instagram account.
We'll tag you in a bunch of stuff so people can go find you. But I mean, we're excited for Hallows Eve. We're excited for Mary Jane and Black Cat. Michael, thank you again. This has been awesome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And if fans, listeners of the show, thank you for listening today. You can find us at Mighty Thor Podcast on Instagram. You can rate, review, and subscribe to the show. You can join our Patreon, the Thor Core, and you can get all bonus episodes and early episodes, fun stuff like that. But until we see you next time aboard the Rainbow Bridge, I encourage you, dear listener, to do one thing, and that is stay worthy.